Good morning. Hi, how are you? My name is Empress Lee, and I am a psychology specialist. I'm not a doctor, but I hold an associates of science and a bachelor's of science degree in psychology. I also hold NCPT level 4 credentials, which makes me eligible for to be a psychology specialist. Today, I'm going to be talking about um, serial killers, various of serial killers, but within one video, I will be talking about specifically just one serial killer. And I'm going to be talking about the what led up to the killings, what went on within the brain, uh, not only what went wrong, but how it went wrong, and what a lot of people fail to see about serial killers. Even though some people say, oh, who cares? They deserve to die because they've killed so many people, mass murders. But when you think about a serial killer and you wonder why did they go on that killing spree, what ticked them off, what happened, who did what was their childhood like, what was the environment they grew up in, were they gang related, is it genetics? So I'm going to be talking about all of that. So first off, I will be talking about the monoamine oxidase gene, which is the MAOA gene. In my opinion, as a psychology specialist, the MAO gene is the primary gene to behavior control. If there is a MAO mutation, trigger deficiency, the MAO gene causes the decreases of the neurotransmitters that messages through the synapses with decreased serotonin, dopamine, and other neurotransmitters, which in behavioral health, we all know that there are 40 neurotransmitters in the brain altogether. However, only about 5 of those neurotransmitters are the control of our behavior, and there are 3 main uh, neurotransmitters that uh, give us our emotion, anger, happiness, different type that causes our behavior, right? So if there is a decrease within any of those neurotransmitters, an individual can develop antisocial behavior such as psychopathy and sociopathy. So I know in my other video I spoke up on this subject, but not in this type of depth. This is a little bit deeper. And so, yes, in my opinion, an individual can be diagnosed with both antisocial disorders and um, psychopathic and sociopathic disorders as evidenced by traits, symptoms, characteristics. The MAOA dash UVNTR, however, onset varies by culture, age, and gender, genetics, childhood environment, and nature versus nurture. Which interests me most about uh, this is learning that all humans carry a warrior gene, explains the crime and violence within various populations and different parameters, statistically speaking. Seeing increased violence within certain populations will always lead to that particular individual or group that is new to the area. For instance, gangs moving into a population of people who are educated and have actual jobs versus people who um, make their living by crime or selling drugs, which you would see the increase of drug use within that population versus like say from 1999 versus year 2022, you would be able to see that difference in the statistics map. So let's get to the serial killer we're going to be talking about today, which is Joseph Roy Metheny. aka the cannibal. So Joe Roy Metheny, a cannibal in Maryland, United States of America, his method was stabbing, grinding, cooking human remains, and strangulation. Joe Roy Metheny claimed the lives by killing 10 women in Baltimore in the early 1990s. He killed Kimberly Spencer, Tori Lynn, uh, Catherine, etc., other women. And Metheny was arrested for the murders of Randall Bauer, Randy Picker, and Metheny was born in year 1955. He was sentenced to death on November 13th, 1998. However, his death sentence was overturned by July 24, 2000. What led the cannibal on his killing spree was his girlfriend he was in a relationship with was gone. She left him with his six. He left. She left with his 6-year-old son and with another man. And so, since he was not able to find his girlfriend in July of 1994, is what triggered him on his killing spree. So, like I was saying prior to, the MAOA gene has a lot to do with how he came to a conclusion that he wanted to kill his ex-girlfriend that left with their son. So his girlfriend, which was his ex-girlfriend, left with his son and he couldn't find her. And so what happens is that when a person MAO gene is triggered by an event in the environment or someone doing something to them that upsets them, is a trigger of like a human warrior gene. And what happens is when the monooxidase gene is triggered within our genes, some people go overboard, way overboard to where they end up becoming serial killers. And so in Joseph Metheny's case, this is exactly what happened. In my opinion, studying psychology for more than 15 years. So she was also addicted to drugs. She was a crack addict prostitute. A few months later, the son was taken because of the mother was caught selling her body and on drugs. So Bethany confessed it to unaliving 5 people within 7 hours. 2 weeks later, Bethany was arrested for the 2 men he chopped up. The cannibal was released for lack of evidence of killing the 2 men he chopped up. So soon after Metheny was free, he lured 2 more prostitutes, killed and chopped them up, and stored their bodies in Tupperware bowls. With the bodies stored, Metheny opened up a street meat stand. He then used the human remains meat from the Tupperware and made hamburgers and sold it to the public. Joseph Metheny, aka the cannibal, confessed to killing 10 people. He butchered up the bodies, stored them in Tupperware, buried their bodies in 7 different places to get rid of the bodies. He opened up a side street hamburger stand, and Metheny went and dug up the Tupperware, grinded up the human remains, and sold them as hamburgers to the public. Metheny says his only regret is that he didn't kill the 2 he was really after. So till this very day, his ex-girlfriend and that left him for another man, they're all like, of course, living because he never captured them in his confession that he said. But it brings us back to the MAOA gene and how it controls behavior. And so when we talk about our emotions, we talk about the neurotransmitters that transmit through the synapses to get the message to the other side of our brain. And if there's not enough dopamine or serotonin, if there's some type of mutation or decrease within those neurotransmitters, that's what makes people become imbalanced. and that also could lead up to antisocial behavior. So in Joseph Roy Methony's case, aka the cannibal, he had antisocial behavior. He had a disorder of antisocial behavior, which led up to him being a psychopath. Um, and that's pretty much about it. It's very interesting that when you study psychology and you study in the depth of psychology, that you learn all these things. It gets kind of like time consuming because like you just want to know more, and the more you figure out, the more you study, the more you learn, you actually learn what actually went wrong with a lot of um the serial killers that people do know about. And all it took was a trigger of someone doing something to him to make him go off. It's kind of like